It's Matt Groves here, back with episode 50. It's a big 5-0. And today, we're going to be starting by answering a question that just came in today on Twitter. And it's going to be around dependency injection with ASP.NET. This is ASP.NET, not ASP.NET Core. So we're going a little bit old school today. And this relates to Couchbase, specifically Couchbase and Unity is what we're looking at. Let's get on with the normal plugs here, the normal start of the show. This is a place that is a safe place to ask questions. It doesn't matter how stupid or silly you think the question is. I don't agree with you. I think you need to ask the question because that's how we learn. So this is a safe place. You're not going to get made fun of. You're not going to be called a noob or anything like that for asking questions. This is the place to ask your questions. Hopefully related to dev and tech in some way, but any question really is allowed here as long as you're following the rules. Look, my forehead's a little shiny. Still haven't got this green screen thing lighting quite figured out yet. All right. My forehead's just naturally shiny. All right, so over to our normal plug. So I am a member of the Live Coders team here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/livecoders. And oh my, okay, that's an interesting commercial. But you can see who's live right now. And this is a list of people we could raid later on when my stream is over. We'll go check out one of these team members if they're still streaming, or if no one's there, we'll go on and look on Twitch to see if there's other live coders. But we got some interesting GraphQL stuff going on here with Jay Lengstorff. I know C# Fritz just finished the stream, and he's over in Visual Studio right now, which is not a team member, by the way, but they are part of the Twitch live coding community. So anyway, if you're looking for live coding, this is a great place to start. Go check out twitch.tv/team/livecoders. Another place you can check out is on my list here, the Awesome Developer Streaming List, a big text file that's a list of developers who are streaming, video streaming in some way about coding. And this is not just Twitch related. These aren't people who are all on the same team. This is just a wide community of people who have submitted themselves to this list and what they stream about. So if you look down here, you can just do Control F and look for JavaScript. You can see a lot of JavaScript going on. And you can see, look for someone who's streaming about a topic that's interesting to you. So game development, or in my case, it's backend, database, .NET, C#, that kind of stuff. So this is a great place to go. Just do a quick Control F, and you will be able to search for a streamer. Okay, and on to bit.ly/GrovesTube. So, hey, Electric Havoc, thank you for the follow, and thanks for hanging out today. Good to see you. If you want to look at my old episodes, they all eventually make their way to YouTube. They're on Twitch for a while. They eventually make their way to YouTube. That's bit.ly/GrovesTube. You can check out old episodes, including this one. If you're there, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I would appreciate that. But what I would really like to see is your questions and comments there on these videos, and I'd love to answer those. Like I'm going to answer a question today that came in on Twitter. But if you think of something while you're watching a YouTube video and you have a question, just throw it into the comments section there, and I will address it in a future episode. It'll be great, because not everyone can watch these live, unfortunately. So some people get to watch them on YouTube, and I still want you to be a part of the community here. I still want your questions, your feedback, and your input. So feel free to do that. Anyone hanging out with me on Twitch, of course, say hi in the chat room. Let me know you're here. I know Electric Havoc's here, but anyone else who's just sort of lurking around there, just drop a hi in the chat so I know you're out there. The chatbot is not on. I failed to turn it on. So let me do that here. I've been messing around a little bit with some Docker, so I'm going to close that. Dual watching, Visual Studio Stand-Up. Oh my, you got quite an overload there. All right, so let me just refresh, and there we go. Bot is ready to go. So you can type bang help to get some help with that bot, and there's other commands, things like that you may want to do. I'm going to set a project later on. Right now, I think the project is still pointing to Tuesday's episode. So new Pluralsight course. I forgot to put this link up here. Pluralsight, Nickel. Right here. This is a brand new Pluralsight course, and I've just been trying to promote it because I am a Couchbase employee. This is not my course. This is by someone else who's not a Couchbase employee, Keyshawn Iyer. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It's a course on querying Couchbase with Nickel, which is Couchbase's SQL implementation. This is I've watched a lot of this. I've skipped through a lot of it. I know a lot of this stuff already. But if you're just getting into Couchbase, just getting into NoSQL, this is a great place to go in the Pluralsight site. You can check out that course there. That would be amazing. Okay, what else we got? Upcoming events. Yes, I am going to be at a few events here coming up for sure. I'm going to be at SQL Saturday in Cleveland, Ohio. This is February 1st. Hopefully they don't throw me out for being a NoSQL guy, but I'm going to talk about SQL as a query language, not necessarily as a database per se, but I'll be there. So if you're interested, February 1st, Cleveland, it's a Saturday. Check out SQL Saturday. And if you're not close to Cleveland, check out SQL Saturday anyway. There's SQL Saturdays all over the country, all over the place. I don't know if there might be some in Canada and other international locations, but check it out, SQLSaturday.com. Find a SQL Saturday close to you, and you can check that out. Oh yeah, looks like there's all kinds of regions here. So Asia, Europe, Latin America. Yeah, there's SQL Saturdays all over the world. So definitely check that out. After that, I'm going to be at Developer Week. This is a event in the Bay Area. This year it's at the Oakland Convention Center, I think. Oakland's something or other. I forget the venue. But anyway, I will be here with Couchbase at the sponsor booth in the expo. So I'll be at the booth talking to developers about Couchbase, about NoSQL, answering questions, just interacting with people, giving away some swag, some stickers, some cool stuff like that. So if you're in the Bay Area, check out Developer Week. Tickets are still available, I believe, February 12th through 16th. I will be there the 13th and 14th and a little bit on the 12th to set up. But I'll be out there for that. So if you're going to Developer Week, come say hi. And finally, DevNexus, the similar situation. This will be right after Developer Week, actually. I'll be in Atlanta for DevNexus, which is mainly a Java conference, but not exclusively. There's lots of different types of developers there. It's a great conference. I've been here 2 or 3 times in the past, and this is a big one. So if you're anywhere near Atlanta, most people are just a short flight away from Atlanta. You might want to check out DevNexus, devnexus.com to register. You can see all the great speakers that are going to be there. They always get a great slate of topics and speakers. Lots of great sponsors. A great venue. I've been to this venue before for different conferences. It's a really, really great place. So check it out, devnexus.com. And once again, I will be there giving away cool stuff, answering questions, talking Couchbase, talking NoSQL. Okay, today, I just closed my browser. I shouldn't have because I wanted to bring up this tweet. Just got this question, like literally, what is the problem here? Am I logged out of Twitter? There we go. Just got this question like literally half an hour before I started the stream. Well, it doesn't say that from the date here. But anyway, just today I got this question about getting Couchbase working with dependency injection or dependency inversion, depending on how you interpret that, with Unity, which is an IOC tool for .NET, for a .NET framework app. So this guy, Morgan, has done it with a core, .NET Core, and he's looking at the one of the example projects for Couchbase called trycb.net. It does not use dependency injection, apparently. I haven't looked at trycb.net in a while. It uses something called the cluster helper. So he's trying to figure out what's the best way to approach using Couchbase and dependency injection in .NET Framework. And I have a few resources, but they're a little bit on the older side. So this is one of the very first blog posts that I wrote when I started at Couchbase in 2016. And it uses, so this is, my gosh, almost 4 years old. Wow. But this uses, I believe, structure map, which if you're familiar with structure map, it's something that it's a very popular dependency injection tool for .NET, but it is kind of deprecated, I guess is the right word. I don't know if obsolete's the right word. Maybe, I'm not sure. But it's not something that the author recommends anymore. He's created another tool called Lamar, which might work with ASP.NET. I'm not sure. But we're going to look at Unity today because that was specifically what the question is about. And you're going to see a lot of the same principles here apply no matter the container of your choice. The fact that you're using a container is a good thing. That's going to help with testing and configuration and keeping things straight and organized. So I definitely recommend doing that, and we're going to look into doing that today. When we get through with that, if we have time, I may look at Talend. So this is something I mentioned on Tuesday. I have not used Talend before. I had an occasion to use it a little bit recently. I thought it was pretty cool, and I thought I would share it with you. It's a great tool, and specifically Talon for big data, for moving data from like a SQL Server in this case, over to a database like Couchbase. And there's lots of different combinations there. It could be MySQL to, Mongo or whatever else. But I'm going to look specifically at SQL Server to Couchbase because those are the two databases I've spent most of my career working with. And so being able to move data between those, well, probably easier to go from SQL Server to Couchbase. Maybe going backwards, we'll look at that too. But I also want to look at, okay, how about multiple sources into Couchbase? This is going to be one of the strengths of NoSQL is data ingestion from multiple sources, putting them together for Customer 360 scenario. Also thinking about ongoing, like synchronization versus a one-time migration. So looking at exploring those if we have time today. But let's get going here. Yes, so let's get going here and look at dependency injection with ASP.NET. So I'm going to do a brand new project here. And this is not going to be .NET. It's going to be, we're going to look at web. I haven't actually done this. ASP.NET Core. So it used to be the case you could run ASP.NET Core on traditional .NET framework. But that's not what I want to do. Let's see, ASP.NET Web Application. So let's just do this. ASP.NET Web Application on .NET Framework. So we're not on .NET Core. So this is not, strictly speaking, cross-platform. This is designed for IIS Windows sort of thing. So we're going to call this Couchbase DI example. Put it in my zproj folder. And we're going to use .NET Framework 4.7.2, which is the latest at the time of recording. Most of what I cover here, I think, will be possible as far back as even .NET Framework 4 or even 3.5. I'm not guaranteeing that, but again, most of the principles should apply here. Okay, so we'll go and create that. Now, I haven't actually done this in a long time. I've been pretty much exclusively .NET Core for probably 2 years or so. All right, and we're going to look at when it comes to dependency injection, it's difficult to do with web forms. At least it was the last time I was doing it. So we're going to start with MVC. And I could add a web API reference. Don't necessarily need to do that for this example. Docker support. This would require us probably a Windows container to do that. So I'm not going to worry about Docker for the purposes of this session. And we're not going to do unit tests either. So this is just the basics of dependency injection here. All the other stuff is great, but we're not going to cover that today. Okay. So taking a little bit of time here. I'm also using the latest version of Visual Studio 2019, which is, I believe, 16.4 maybe? 16.4.3, that's right. I just updated this yesterday. Okay, so let's take a look at, oh, I don't have Zoom It running. Let's get Zoom It going. Let's take a look here at this project that's been created. So we've got your standard folders here. So we're mainly interested in controllers and also the global ASAX. We'll be looking at that one. There's no, interesting that there's no, oh, whoops. Looks like I created a Visual Studio, or sorry, a Visual Basic. We're going to rectify that. Nothing wrong with Visual Basic per se, but I want to stick to C# because that is what I know the best. Okay, I'm going to remove this old folder here. I just didn't notice that I okay, I can't remove that old folder yet. Okay, new project. Okay, see this says Visual Basic. I don't want Visual Basic. You should add channel points to force VB as oh gosh. That would be something, huh? Gosh. Okay, this one looks like C#. C#, okay. That's not a half bad idea, the Electric Havoc. Although it would be hard to, once I'm 80% into a C#, to switch gears and go over to VB. But, you know, I used to write VB.NET and VB script, so I could probably hold my own with that. Couchbase, let's just call this Unity example. And 472. MVC. And yep, that all looks good. I do have channel points, I think, enabled. They're called spacebucks, but I don't know if I have any interesting rewards in there or not. Okay, this looks more like it. So the startup is we're going to look at configuring our dependency injection, and we're going to I'm just going to use it directly in a controller here. In reality, you probably want to set up a separate layer for business logic and or data access, you know, or mediator or whatever. But we're going to do it directly in the home controller to keep things as simple as possible. All right. Now let's see. Yeah, like a lot of points to force next project would be interesting. I don't think I've seen VB in many years. I think I did some VB on this very stream. Had to be a few weeks ago because a question came in on Stack Overflow that was, was using Visual Basic. So the answer didn't require me to use Visual Basic, but I thought, why not? Okay, so we're going to look for Unity here. I am not, was it a DNN plugin? I couldn't answer that based on the question itself. It could have been, for all I know, but there was nothing DNN specific about the question. Okay, now the thing with Unity, they seek up the light and convert. The thing with Unity is it's kind of an overloaded name now, unfortunately. So there's Unity, the game engine. That's not what we're talking about today. There's Unity, like a library. Hey, it's AJ, 2017. What's going on? Thanks for stopping in, AJ. Good to see you again. It's going great. We're just getting into some old school ASP.NET, not ASP.NET Core, some ASP.NET, and getting into some Unity. Had a question come through on Twitter, and we're going to try to work through it and see if some of the materials I put together almost 4 years ago will still apply here. So we got Unity for MVC. That's probably where I want to start. We're looking at 4 million downloads. That seems reasonable. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll go latest stable version 5.11.1. Let's see what happens. Okay, it's adding all this stuff in here. Fine. How's it going with you, AJ? I noticed you're doing some NoSQL work the other day on Twitter. You were talking about it, and we were talking about something on Twitter yesterday, or is it this morning? I can't remember what it was. CodeMash, that's right. We're talking about CodeMash because we yes, right. Talking about badge scans at CodeMash. Okay, so I've got Unity added, and now how do we get started? So did it add any files? Because sometimes these packages will add things. So yeah, here we go. Unity config and Unity MVC activator. And so here's the dependency resolver. And here's the config. So this is where I actually put, so I'm guessing I don't have to touch this MVC activator unless I wanted to, use per request lifetime manager, which I just absolutely might want to use that for a web application. And then here's where we actually register the various type mappings, okay? So we go back here to our home controller, and let's actually switch over to Couchbase server, which is not running as I stopped it for some reason. Why did I stop it? Start DB. So actually the 6.5 general availability release just came out for Couchbase server. And let me just, if I can type here. Right here, you can see Couchbase 6.5 is GA. It's been in beta for a while. We've had two public betas, and this is the actual GA release. So all the new cool stuff that's been added. So SDK 3 is being released. Some async stuff has been added to these various libraries here. .NET is already pretty heavily asynced. We've got query enhancement, stuff like that. But so what I've done is I've installed that a Docker version of that locally here. It's not going to look too much different than the beta. Might be a few things you notice. I've also put it into developer preview mode. So this is the not for production version, but it's not the beta either. It's just if you put it in preview mode, you can use some of the preview features, but because they're preview, this is not suitable to put into production. So that's why that message is up there. If I were using 6.5 out of the box, it would not be in preview mode by default. You have to go out of your way to enable those preview features. Okay, so I've got this demo bucket here already. So let's just use that. So one of the things I could do here is I could just say IBucket. So I don't actually have the Couchbase client, not Couchbase, Couchbase client added to my project. I'm going to stick to the 2.7 because 3.0 is still in beta right now. We're going to stick to 2.7. This will be very similar with the beta though, the parts that we are focusing on today. Okay, over here, so the bucket, IBucket is the type of object we're going to use to interact with Couchbase. All right, so we could, for instance, say, let's see, document is new, document of dynamic type, it's fine, and give it an ID of doc dash, I like to use, no, is it file or path? File dot, I think it's path. Get random file name instead of GUID, it's just more fun. And content, we'll just make it a anonymous object. Give it a type equals dummy data, and name equals, again, path.get random file name, and foo equals bar. Okay, and then we're going to use that bucket to insert the document. All right, and then we'll get the document back out. Is bucket.get, and let's make this ID separate here. Put this right here, and use that. This is my standard, like, just make sure everything works and I can read and write. Now I'm going to get dynamic and ID. Okay, and then we'll pass the doc to the view, and oh, this actually should be dot value, and we'll pass it to the view. So if we go down to the view, here we go. We got all kinds of stuff here. I'll just say. So we need to give this a model of type dynamic. And we'll just print out that model. That should probably be enough to demonstrate that it's working. And if I go ahead and run this, I should get an error. So I just want to make sure it's the right kind of error. Okay. Oh, that's not the error I expected. Invalid registration exception. Oh no, that is right. Okay. This is what I expected. So no public constructors available for type IBucket. So what is happening is that Unity is trying to find an object to pass into this home controller. I'll make this read only. But I haven't told Unity how to do that. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to say container, register type, and IBucket. Now what I can do is I can pass in, I can give it another type. Right? If I had that available, I could just say, whenever you instantiate, whenever looking for this, give it an instance of this. But what I'm going to do is demo bucket. I believe if I just pass in the object, it will use that. So then where do I get demo bucket from? Okay. So one of the things you can do, there's multiple ways to do this. The easiest things you can do is there's something called cluster helper. And this comes with the .NET SDK. So I can say cluster helper.initialize. This only happens to happen once. So, I mean, I could put it here. I think that's probably okay. I need to know more about this, but since it's static, I'm guessing this is probably fine. And I give it a client configuration, which you'd probably want to pull from the web.config file if you wanted to put settings there. I'm not going to go into that. This is just easy enough to hard code. Servers equals new list of servers. Couchbase is distributed, so we can give it a list of more than one. I only have one running locally here. And then I need to also give it authentication. So password authentication, I happen to know that it's administrator and password, the absolute worst series of credentials. Now what I could do, can I give this a... Okay, it looks like I can't. So maybe I can just do this. Cluster helper dot open, git bucket demo. Is that going to work? Okay. So, because that would be the bucket. Demo bucket equals this. Now, let me just explain what's going on here. So this cluster helper is a singleton. And I can initialize it just one time is all I need to initialize it for the lifetime of this application. And I give it the configuration and the authentication. And so at that point, the cluster helper is initialized. This operation takes a little bit of work to do. It's got to go out and talk to the database, make a copy of the cluster manager information to store locally, and that can take some time. So this should happen one time. This is a relatively expensive operation. It should happen one time, or as few times as possible. Actually getting a bucket from the cluster helper, this is a relatively quick operation to do. Maybe the first time will take a little bit extra work, but it'll cache it from that point on. And the bucket is how we interact with the database. As I showed you here, I use the bucket object to insert data and get data back out. Okay, so it's then relatively easy, once we have the cluster helper initialized, to then get a bucket from that. So as you can see, this returns an IBucket object there. So I need to figure out a way to get Unity to either take this bucket object or to just call this method. So this is where my understanding of Unity kind of falls apart. So what are the options here? This is injection member thing. I'm not quite sure what that means. So I'm going to look it up here. If anyone is familiar with Unity in the chat, now is the time for you to join in and help me figure out what I'm doing wrong here. Okay, it looks like old content. Register, singleton objects. So it's not a singleton. But I'd be okay with like a factory method or like a lambda would be fine with that too. So let me just like a Unity getting started, something like that. So I want to avoid Unity 3D tutorials. Getting started, dependency injection, because I think Unity does a lot of stuff beyond just dependency injection. Okay, this is an older post, but let's see if this can help us here. Okay, looks like doing a lot of setup here. I'm not really going to go into that. Property injection, parameter injection, what I'm mostly... Well, this is interesting. Resolve. Maybe that's what I want to do is I say resolve. Resolve IBucket with demo. Well, I could just say, it's not what I wanted to do. Is it? Will that work? Doesn't like that. Resolver override. Okay, so that's not quite right. New parameter override. Okay, I don't quite understand this. It's possible to say the containers are resolve dependency, explicitly ignoring the default behavior. Okay. Register type. Yeah, I'm not really registering a type per se. I might do that with other parts of the application, but okay. What if I say parameter override, something like that? And it's not tic-tac-toe. We're talking about get bucket. Will this work? Okay, so I don't need to have this separate statement here. Okay, so that's good. So I think at this point, whenever a constructor asks for IBucket, it's going, and I don't need to call this, we just call this this bucket, I don't know, Couchbase bucket. I don't know what that name, how that name helps, except maybe in logging. And it's going to get that bucket demo, it's going to resolve that. I'd be curious if there was something like a, there's register singleton. I may want to register singleton. But let's see how this works. Okay, so the other important step, and this is always important to do, is clean up. I think it's application end. At this point, we're going to say cluster helper dot, close? And this is going to clean up any of the connections that are sort of outstanding, any of the resources that the cluster helper singleton has a hold of. We want to make sure to clean those up when the application ends. Okay, so assuming I've done this correctly with Unity, let's run it and see what happens. Okay, so I've got an exception, invalid registration exception. No public constructor is available for IBucket. Yeah, so this is apparently not the correct way to do it. Commander Radical, thank you for the follow. Thank you for joining us, Commander Radical. Hopefully you know something about Unity, because I am struggling a little bit trying to figure out how to resolve a dependency with an object. Nope, sorry. Okay, well, it's worth a shot. And this is an even older blog post here, so maybe we can get something more up to date. Dependency injection, unit testing in Unity / Unity 3D. No. Let's see. Property injection is not what I want. Unity container. So this is, okay, documentation. This is, I think, what I want. Tutorials, resolution. Resolving collections of object, not collections of object. Deferring the resolution of objects. I think that's what I want. Create a delegate. Resolver. This is very different than what I've seen other structure map and ASP.NET Core's built-in registration look like. Let's see, resolution is what I'm looking at here. Collections of objects by a particular type. I don't really want a collection. Type T, string name, resolve method, default registrations. Yeah, that's all fine. Except I don't want to just associate one type to another type. I want it to be one type with an object or one type with a function that returns an object. That's sort of my goal here. Name registrations. That's fine too, but it's not really what I'm looking for. Deferring resolution of, I think this is probably what I want. Okay. Create a delegate for a component named myClass, register a mapping for it, and perform deferred resolution when required. Other code here. MyContainer.resolve. Register type. Okay. I don't quite understand this example. Because it looks like it's still registering type here, but this resolver, create a delegate. Well, let's just see what happens here. Move this over on this side. Okay, so this is not working. Getting an error there. I want to say container dot resolve. Say a func of IBucket. Can I do something with this? Like, Unity is the worst. I have not used it that much, so I'm not familiar. Okay, so that's just looking for... Wait, what's the error here? Okay, so I don't know what that is. Unity has been around for a while, so some of these decisions in syntax are probably based on early limitations of C#, is my guess. So container.register type of IBucket, but I don't have a class that I want to give it. My class instance. Resolver, yeah. See, I'm just kind of at a loss here. Because I mean, with structure map or with ASP.NET, I would just say something like IBucket. So anytime you ask for IBucket, I'd provide a lambda that would say, cluster helper .get bucket in the name of the bucket, something like that would probably be fine. I may want to make this a singleton, or I may want this to be tied to a HTTP lifetime. Not a huge issue, I don't think, in this case. But I can't really figure out how to do that with Unity here. Solution, let's see. I'm just browsing through the documentation here a little more. Okay. Registration. So maybe not resolution, but registration. Instance registration. And there's an existing instance within the container. You specify the instance type and optional lifetime. So maybe I just do this, register instance. Maybe that's all I need to do. Register instance. And I'm going to say cluster helper dot get bucket demo. Will that do it? Is that enough information? It looks like it's figured out based on this little tip here that it is an IBucket. And I'm passing it because this returns IBucket. Okay. All right. So let's see what happens if I do this. So we get another Unity error. Okay, it's working. So there we go. If I go back here to my database, you can see my dummy documents in there. Right there. It's got the random looking characters from one of my favorite methods in the framework, which is path.getRandomFileName. It doesn't get random file, gets random file name. And this is designed, to if you want to create a temp file somewhere, you'll get a random file name that won't collide. But you can also just get random strings. Of course, they look like file names, as you can see here. P1H5PEMN.WTB. It's a file name with an extension, right? But it's a perfectly good random string. So if I refresh this, you'll see the string is random each time. And what you don't see is the key, also random each time. Retrieve this, you can see it's got all these different keys there. So there we have it. My only concern now is this the correct way to go? Or I can say per request lifetime manager. That might be okay too. So let's see what happens if I do that. Okay, can only be used in the context of HTTP request. Lifetime manager on non-ASP.NET application. So I am using it in an ASP.NET application. So I don't know how to do that either. But I'm guessing if you're used to Unity, that's probably something you're already familiar with. There is no need to register concrete types such as controllers or API controllers. Fine, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So you load from web.config, uncomment the line below. So you could also load your configuration from XML if you really want to do that. So I think this is probably fine. I don't think this is just going to be, it's going to pull that bucket object. And you don't need to dispose the bucket objects. So if that just goes away, I think garbage collection will handle that just fine. I'm not 100% on that, but I'm not 100% on Unity either. But that seems to be it. It's as easy as that. If you want to use cluster helper, you can also, if you want to skip using cluster helper, you can just new up your cluster yourself, right, and give it the same configuration, etc., etc. The problem with this approach, and I say problem, but something you could overcome, is that at the end of the application, you need to dispose of this cluster object somehow, which means over here in application end, you need to have access to that cluster object to dispose it, which means more than likely you probably need to put that cluster object as a member of this class so that it can get access to it, or something along those lines, or if maybe Unity has an event you can hook into to dispose. But that's really the problem there, is using cluster helper, it's just a singleton that you can access from anywhere. You shouldn't access from anywhere. You should only stick to like startup and config and shutdown. Because I could also hypothetically use it here and skip this whole injection and just say bucket equals cluster helper dot get bucket demo. This isn't the worst thing you can do, but this makes testing difficult because you can no longer inject override this with a mock, for instance. But totally could do this if you wanted to. If it was a web forms app, I might end up doing that more often than not, depending on how much trouble it's worth. But there you go. Just don't forget to close it down at the application end. I would say consider carefully the lifetime here. I don't know exactly how to do Unity lifetime very well. You might want to make this a singleton as well. I don't know if there's really any benefit to that, but you could totally do that. But there you go. That's it. So that's the easiest way to configure ASP.NET, traditional ASP.NET with Unity and Dependency Injection. And there we go. Working just fine. Interesting that it's showing up here for some reason. Why is it showing in multiple places? Oh, because this should be M, lowercase m. That's my mistake. There we go. Huh. Still worked. That's pretty cool. But there you go. So that's the basics of it there. So I hope that helps. Morgan Kenyon. And I could publish this as a gist or something to share with you, but seems pretty simple. Maybe I'll just make this a nice little easy to consume little Twitch clip, so we can go that route. All right, so let's shut this one down. So that's what's one down for the day. So we have a decent amount of viewers right now in the channel. Anybody have any questions? Now's a good time to ask before I move on to something else. Let me just take a little break here to check Twitter, see if anything has come in from Morgan or others. Let's see. Okay, yeah, Morgan just says, I'll check those out. So those are the older links that I put out there. Couldn't tune into the live stream, but I appreciate the links. So yeah, I'll send Morgan a clip once I get this video finished and send it out there. So hey, why don't we turn over to you guys for a second here, Electric Havoc and AJ 2017. What's going on with y'all and anybody else who's lurking? What kind of cool projects are you working on, and what brings you to live coding today? Just check how the team's doing. See who's streaming, what they're up to. You like to follow all the C# devs. That's cool. Do you do a lot of C# Electric Havoc, or are you starting to learn, or what's the situation there? Watch me copy paste code. Huh, that's funny. Copying and pasting for Stack Overflow. AJ says, I'm handling change streams in MongoDB and pushing the changes to Elasticsearch. Yep, that's the sort of thing we were talking about at CodeMesh there. Is that working out better for you than the situation you had before? It's not done yet. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised there's not a connector already that just you can just drop in and start pushing stuff from Mongo to Elastic. Because I know Couchbase definitely has one. We just actually released a new version of it. There is, but you need to convert schemas. Oh, interesting. Okay. So you need to do a little extra work. You can't just drop it in and start pushing stuff over. Electric Havoc has been working with C# since .NET Alpha days. I do work at Couchbase Electric Havoc. That is I'm a developer advocate at Couchbase for almost 4 years now. Yeah, I like it a lot, and we just had a couple major releases, 6.5 for server and 2.7 for mobile, and then a bunch of other related things. So I was mentioning the Elasticsearch connector, I believe the Kafka connector was updated as well. The SDKs are in version 3. Some of them are in demo. You've heard good things about Couchbase, so you'll have to dig through the history a bit. A lot of Couchbase in here. It's not exclusively Couchbase, but it's a lot of Couchbase, a lot of back-end type stuff. Yeah, definitely go back through the archives and if any questions pop up, definitely, like I said at the beginning of the show, leave a comment in the YouTube there, and I'll see those and happy to address them. So you've heard good things about Couchbase. Have you done any NoSQL, worked with any NoSQL databases yourself? Always curious to hear about people's experiences with NoSQL and what kind of use cases they've had success with, what kind of use cases they haven't had success with, things like that. You looked at it when you were with Verifone, ended up choosing Mongo. Or you looked at Couchbase at Verifone, but you used Mongo at Verifone. So that's interesting. I'm always kind of curious how that process goes as well. Like what ended up tipping the scales in favor of Mongo? I mean, that's the kind of question we get a lot. I get a lot at when I go to events. Is why would I look at Couchbase over Mongo, or what's the difference between Couchbase and Mongo? Very common question. But I can answer that with my opinions. But I'm always curious to hear other people's opinions. Like, why did they end up going with Mongo? What was the deciding factor? What could we do in Couchbase to make it a stronger candidate next time it comes up, right? Let's see. One of the deciding factors at the time was pretty much single exe no install for Mongo, which was kind of pre-Docker boom. Oh, interesting. So it was just we'll just like MongoD or even just Mongo, right? And just start running that on the command line and away you go. Whereas with Couchbase, I mean, it's not terribly complicated to do that. But it's a couple install steps in the wizard, things like that. Now that's probably less since everything is container. Yeah, very very much so. Everything is the container. But so I'm just kind of curious. You say it's a very small entry curve, but I mean, we're talking the difference of a minute or two in a wizard versus just starting up an exe file. Is that the only thing that figures into the curve? Is a couple minutes to get from 0 to running a server, or is there other factors in there? And one of the things I say about Couchbase is that people come from Mongo to Couchbase for reasons of scale, for scaling issues, and so it's one of the things where Mongo is very quick to get up and running, get started, and we're looking at ways of making Couchbase, trying to improve Couchbase along the same lines. But there is a lot of extra work you have to do down the road with Mongo to get to scale out. There are other factors, but at the time, several years ago, it met our needs at scale. Yeah, all right, interesting to hear. Yeah, if you can think of anything else. I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but just anything else back in the day that sort of tipped it one way or the other. That's exactly why I'm here on Twitch, is to kind of listen to people, their opinions, and to get their feedback on Couchbase, so that we can try to get it moving in the direction that's going to be more appealing to developers. It needed to store data for all the credit card swipes globally. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Well, the other thing I had on my list to do was to open up Talend. Talend Open Studio for Big Data, and play around with that a little more. I had a chance recently to work with this. It's, if you've not heard of Talend before, it's a bunch of different tools. It's a company that makes a bunch of different tools for data integration purposes. And what that means is, ETLs or synchronization, things like that. Let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, here we go. So this is, I just downloaded the Talend Open Studio for Big Data, it's called. They make a couple of different products. This is the one that's Open Studio for Big Data. And there's a amazing splash screen on my other monitor here, but here you go. So yeah, let's do existing project. Let's see if I still have some stuff left over in there from last time I was working with this. Yeah, so this actually starts a VM. That's interesting. So some sort of VM, some sort of server, I'm guessing. That splash screen over on my first monitor. I can't drag it over here, but trust me, it's there. It's amazing. Here, I'll give you a preview of it. This is the splash screen. Okay, here we go. Here we got Talend. I do have this onboarding demo. Time to prep for meeting, but you are on my notify list now. Monkey face, monkey smiling. Catch you soon. Thanks for coming by, Electric Havoc. Appreciate it. I will be streaming again, most likely on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern U.S. time. Okay, so this, you can kind of see, I've got some stuff I did already. And this is a very simple, one of those cylinder, arrow, cylinder diagrams that you always see. So this is connecting to SQL Server, and this one's connecting to Couchbase. So we're taking input from SQL Server, a query, and we're pushing it over to Couchbase. So let's see if I have SQL Server running, and I'll kind of show you the process I've gone through here. SQL Server is not running, so I'll start that up. Then I'll open up SQL Server Management Studio. I don't keep SQL Server running all the time because it's fairly heavy, and I want to save my memory for other stuff. But this is a pretty beefy machine here, so I should be able to handle SQL Server, Couchbase, and Talend, no problem. Although SQL Server Management Studio seems to be kind of slow to run. Here we go. Okay, so I've got SQL Server running locally here. I've got a user called Talend with a password of password. Really super secure. And I got a database in here called Reds, because the last time I used SQL, I was writing a blog post for something that Cincinnati Reds were doing as a proof of concept with Couchbase. They are customers now, which is amazing. My favorite baseball team. But I had some data in here already. So we can just see I've got select star from this table called completely valid data. There we go. Got 4 records in there. Very exciting. Set of data there. And then you can see in my input, I'm actually querying that. And then over here in Couchbase, it's just basically I drag this little line here, and anything comes out of here is going to go into here, and I can tell it which bucket to put it in. So I should create a bucket called Talend. So I'll delete this demo bucket here. Create one called Talend. Just give it a small size. So Talend is one of the many tools out there that supports a lot of different databases. You can see over here we've got all these different options here for NoSQL, including Mongo that AJ mentioned, Dynamo, all these, MarkLogic, etc. And Couchbase is in there. And of course, as input, it supports all the usual suspects. Still quite got the hang of this yet, but databases. So you can see AS400, Access, even Oracle, MySQL, etc. I don't see Maria in here, but it's probably MySQL compatible, right? I don't know. SAP HANA SQLite, etc. So lots of different options here, and there's all kinds of different steps you can do. It's not just to move data from A to B. You can put some custom code in there. You can put in some processing steps, mapping, things like that. What we got here? We got some sort of spammer.
Bada bing, bada boom.
I don't know how to kick somebody out. Report them. And it looks like it is spam, so we'll do that. It's probably a bot account. Submit that report. Put a spam link in my chat. This is the first time I've ever been spammed on Twitch, believe it or not. And we're going to go ahead and block as well. Yep, you're getting blocked, Rakanoth. But anyway, sorry for that distraction there. JB Perry, thank you for the follow. Thanks for hanging out, JB Perry. What are you up to today? What are you interested in? Got any questions? Got any cool stuff you're working on? We're just kind of hanging out a little bit here now. This is kind of turning into a little bit of a chill out stream a little bit. We already covered the ASP.NET issue earlier, question that I got today. So looking at something called Talend, which can move data from one place to another. So right now I've got this bucket here called Talend, which has nothing in it. You can see 0 items. And I've got this database table here on SQL Server called completely valid data. Has 4 rows. Let's just see if this will work. It was working the last time I tried it. Let's see if it works today. You know what? I didn't create a Talend user, so that's what I'm going to get an error. Yep, makes sense. So one of the things about Talend is it hasn't quite updated the Couchbase connector yet. So in order to get backwards compatibility, I have to create an actual user called Talend, because there's no place, if you can see here, right here in this output connector, it's just a bucket and password. There's no username. Now this means that this hasn't been updated in a while, because we actually added RBAC and role-based authentication version 5, I believe. So this connector needs updated, but we can work around it. So let's try it now. So again, nothing in this bucket yet, 0 items. Run it. Starting the job down here. See like a little bit of what you call it, like a terminal output kinda. So it looks like it worked. Go back over here, we can see we've got 4 documents in there. All right, so those roughly correspond to the 4 records. Now what I'm curious about is so what you can see from Talend here is 4 rows in 2.68 seconds. It's kind of slow, actually. But I don't know what, because I made one of an index or something like that. I don't know. So if I add another row here, like I can say Electric Havoc. Since Electric Havoc stood by today, sure, Electric Havoc's verified. Electric Havoc has a very secure password. What's your salary? Probably $200,000 is what I'd expect. Okay, so that is that. What happens if I run this Talend job again? Is it going to update all 5? We're going to get an error because some of those rows already exist. What's going to happen? So this says 5 rows. So chances are it updated those documents, right? So here's Electric Havoc, salary. Now, if I go back and edit one of those existing rows, so instead of Matt Groves, I'll make it more exciting. Ask exclamation points, Matt Groves. Run this again. Is it going to update that document? I suspect yes. And there it is. You can see we've got Matt Groves. So it updated everything. Everything was moved over there. So I'm just kind of curious, like how do I only update, the rows that have actually been updated? Is there some other connector I need to do that? Maybe do it on the fly. I don't, this is a job, right? Is there something I can have running in the background that listens? SQL Server. Let's see what we got here. Microsoft SQL Server. So we've got bulk, commit, connection, input, last insert ID. Okay, interesting. Dimension, store procedure, table list, row, rollback. Yep. This whole bulk thing. So maybe a bulk would be better if I'm doing, like literally a bulk movement of data. Now what happens if I'm also curious about this. What happens if I delete a row? So let's delete Electric Havoc and see what happens. Okay, go back over here. Electric Havoc is still there, so the row is gone. It didn't delete the data in Couchbase there, so it's interesting. That seems like useful in a certain sense. If you want to retain all your data, even if it gets eventually gets deleted out of here, you can sort of throw it into Couchbase and act as kind of a data lake kind of thing. It's interesting. But I'm kind of curious what the options are. Like you'd think there'd be a way to say, oh, just give me the new records or the updated records. So this would probably have to keep track of something like if there was a timestamp field, say, oh, this is the latest timestamp, the last time we inserted, and don't query any of those. Anything that's older than that in this job. So, I was kind of curious to see how that works. Has anyone out there used Talend at all to move data around? This seems like kind of more of a Java ecosystem thing, because you notice this is all Java code behind the scenes that I assume it's generating. So maybe not so much the .NET world. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works. And I suppose I could take this code that it generates and turn it into a job that runs nightly, for instance, or runs every so often. That's interesting. There's a metadata stuff going on here. That's interesting. SQL templates. Code, routines. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so this is called Talend. If you've not heard of it before, Talend Open Studio Big Data. You can check it out here. This is a free download, as far as I can tell. It is available for Windows and Mac. Open Studio for Big Data. I'll put the link there in the comments. And there we go. So let's see what else. What else we got here that it can do? Graphical design environment. I like that. Yeah, it looks like literally here, data lake is what it's saying. Ingestion, loading, and unloading data into a data lake. Open, move, compress without scripting. Orchestrate with master jobs. Yeah, enrich, aggregate, all that good stuff. Oh, it's open source too. That's cool. Dropbox. Oh, interesting stuff there. What else do we have? Anyway, I think it's worth investigating some more. I don't know how far I'm going to go with this, because I'm not typically in the business of creating ETLs, and the nature of ETLs can vary a lot from project to project. Is it a one-time thing? Is it an ongoing thing? Do I want to literally capture all the data, even the data that's deleted, or do I want to make this like a synchronization sort of thing? Those are all going to be questions that are going to vary from project to project. But it'd be nice to know what what Talon could do from that point of view. So anyway, check out Talon there if you're interested. What else have I got going on? I thought about, yeah, this is multiple sources to Couchbase. So you can see that's kind of straightforward. I could just add more of these inputs here. They don't have to be from the same database. They could be different tables, different databases, even different database vendors, right? I could just drop those in. And in fact, why don't we try that? Let's see if I can use the same output for it. So TB, can I copy this? Yeah, so I've got another table in there called ticket check. Ticket check, is that what it's called? Ticket check, okay. So we'll save that, and we can guess the schema from the results. This is kind of a way of importing the schema, you can see there. And what if I just said, like that? Is that going to work? What's the problem here? Doesn't really want to join there. Interesting. Figured I could throw in the same, but it's going to be different schemas. That's the thing. That's the thing with Talon here, is that you've got this schema that it defines for Couchbase, which is kind of strange because Couchbase doesn't need a schema. I can just throw whatever I want in there. Do I have any options for Couchbase? Input and output. That seems to be it. Oh, there's this repository option. I wonder what that is. Metadata, repository content. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot more I need to understand about Talon. But this is probably stuff that's obvious to people who are using Talon, or have used Talon before. So I don't know. All right. Well, anyone else has any questions? I'm thinking about shutting it down a little early today, and maybe going and raiding somebody. See who's coding right now on the old team. Looks like a lot of the same, usual suspects. Lana Lux, Tyler Leonard, who was streaming earlier. Nick Larson, Happy Thursday, mentoring stuff, then PyTorch, all right. Tutor Exilius, C++, looks like it's not in English. It says not live either. Flav Creations, character art, maybe some coding. It's interesting. And yours truly. So, you know, I don't think we've actually invaded Lana Lux in a while. See what she's up to here.
How are you?
Looks like just chilling on a desktop here. Anyway, let's go. Let's do that. Let's raid Lana Lux. Why not? We'll see you over there. If you are joining me, if you're a subscriber, make sure to be nice and make sure to hit the bada bing, bada boom emoji as you invade. And it looks like there's not very many left. So this will be like a little mini raid. So anyway, thanks for joining me. We'll see you over there, and I'll see you again on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for joining me.
It's like so. I have my windows wide open and the heat off.